Hello and welcome back to the podcast. Today we'll be discussing the importance of mental health support and resources for students with learning disabilities and mental health at schools. Today I'm joined with my mom, a dedicated teacher with firsthand experience in the classroom. Thanks for joining me, Mom. Can you give us a little bit of background about your teaching, where you taught, what grade you've taught, and how long you've been teaching?
This is my 31st year of teaching. I taught 6 years at a private school in second and third grade. I then went to a public school and taught fourth grade for 6 years, kindergarten for, 8, now another 8 or 9 in transitional kindergarten.
Perfect, thank you. And can you talk a little bit about what you would say your favorite grade or favorite class you've had in the past and like why they were?
I will have to say that now at the TK, transitional kindergarten, I feel like is definitely my home away from home. I enjoy the spirit. I enjoy the love of learning in the transitional kindergarten, even the age that they are so young. But with that, there definitely is a lot of challenges.
Would you mind touching on a little bit of those challenges and kind of talk about how, like, from when you first started teaching to now, what you feel like the biggest challenges for both your students and for you as a teacher?
Well, first off, some of the challenges even transitional kindergarten is that many of my students have not been diagnosed with any learning disabilities or because it's their first experience of school. So they come in not having any assistance or help. Over the 31 years, it definitely is a huge increase of students that need more needs. For example, this year I have 9 students on an IEP for speech alone. Many of them not able to, that you can't even understand at all. Some just getting speech services this year. And so that has definitely been a big challenge, the speech. I also believe that in my past 31 years of teaching, every now and then, every year or so, I would have one child with autism or autistic, and now I will have numerous in my classroom in a year, 2 or 3 each year in the last probably 4 years, I would say. I don't know if that's just because I have younger kids now or if autism is just more apparent now than it used to be.
Now, I found some research on the National Alliance on Mental Health within students and teachers and things like that. And it says that school-based mental health services are critical as they reduce barriers to treatment, especially in deserved community. So do you feel like you're at a school that isn't getting as many resources, or do you feel like you have a lot of resources, they're just not being used correctly? Because like you said, you had 9 kids with IEPs. So do they go to speech half the day, a quarter of the day? Because there's 9 students, is there enough speech teachers to help them? Do you feel like they're getting the help they need to then improve?
Well, being on an IEP, you are required to have your allotted time, which is normally 3% of your school day or school week. So yes, I do feel like my speech teacher, pathologist at our school definitely has the biggest caseload she's ever had. So she definitely is juggling many, many students, but does a great job doing it. We do have resources. I just think that the number of students that need resources now are not what they used to be. And so we just don't have as many. So as many as before.
So do you feel like your school, oh, sorry.
Oh, it's okay. I feel like my school does. We have a counselor, we have a psychologist only part-time. We have a, who's my other teacher? One that's with mental health. She's only a part-time. We do have 2 speech pathologists now, one part-time, one full-time. So they are trying to fill in the gaps. I just don't know that there is the resources and the people that they need for now, the number of students that need help.
So do you feel like maybe not at your school in general, but like you touch on your school the most, like, do you feel like the resources are like trying to be found? There just isn't enough teachers, or like, do you think we're lacking in finding the resources?
I feel that they do their best of trying to meet the needs of all the students that need help. I just feel like I don't know that as many professionals go into maybe the field. Or they come for a little while and then they get new jobs.
So it's
So
almost like a lack of resources in the fact that like the school isn't giving you lack of resources, but like there's just not enough people in that field.
yes, because I feel like the number of students that need help has definitely grown in the past 31 years that I've been teaching. We didn't need as many resources like we do need now.
Um, awesome. So then what about like classroom aides? Like, do you feel like do you have a classroom aide? And then if you do you feel like you need more? Do you feel like
Uh,
what percentage of like aid to student with mental health or learning disabilities do you feel like is fair?
I myself have a full-time aide due to the age that I have, since my students are 4 when they enter school. So as California State requires us to have an aide room because we're technically almost like a preschool. Other classes do not have aides, and it's kind of detrimental. I feel like money can be spent in my school or other schools um, with aides, to have more aides. But again, I also think that there aren't the people out there that want to go into education, and there's a lack of actual people to fill those positions.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And then what about like, do you feel like I've been doing a lot of research about like parents and like aides and things like that. And I read something that said Learning Disabilities Association of America notes that approximately 8.25% of students are identified with receiving specialized instruction, leaving many others without the support they're required. So, with that being said, you feel like it's because of the lack of resources of people applying to jobs and things like that. It's not that like the school system is doing necessarily something wrong. Like it's the fact that we don't have enough people going into that field.
Um, just with my own experience, I feel like there is not the resources that we need. I mean, I think the schools, at least in my school, that we do the best we can and try to find programs and people to run things. They're just not there. Like
Yeah.
um,
Um,
but again, with just the so many more students needing help, not in just speech, and not in just autistic, but the amount of mental health and students with behaviors have just grown. Whereas it to be, I myself feel like that technology and students having or kids having phones at such a young age and no communication with them and no interaction with them, that when they come to school they just truly don't even know how to interact with others or their peers, because they have technology that has just been put in their hand for so long.
so then that actually you bringing that up brings me to my other point about like, do you feel like having parent help is helpful, or do you think it like adds like kind of more stress to you or to your students, like when parents come in to help for like craft day or whatever
I
it
am
might be?
I am so fortunate. I have wonderful parent helpers. This year especially, I have every day of the week mom that comes in to help with whatever's needed, whatever table I need, whatever assistance I need. I think parent help is wonderful. In my experience, I've never had a parent that I wouldn't want in my classroom. So if parents are willing to come in and help, then the door is always open. I always give the open door policy. So yes, I think now definitely, but back to a lot of times parents have to work now. Many parents can't come work in the classroom, maybe on a special occasion every now and then, but so many of them have to work to provide for their family that it's hard to get the parent help that I once had, you know.
So you feel like you had more in the past, like you had more in the past just because of like just cost of living in that sense, like parents were allowed to come in, take off time at
Yeah.
work to come in.
Also, the demographics of our school, the district that the school that I'm at, has definitely changed in the last 25 years of being there. Where I probably had more parents that stay at home, whereas now, with the demographics of our school area, it's more working parents.
Yeah,
So
that makes sense.
I also have a lot of parents that are not English speaking, so will shy away from coming to the classroom because they feel like they cannot help because they're not proficient in English or feel like they can't help in some way.
That makes a lot of sense. So then I also, this kind of goes like a question towards you, but I looked up like teachers like burnout percentage, and it says that like there was a study found that 52% of K through 12 teachers report feeling burnout more than they used to. So like ones that have been teaching for a long time. Do you feel like you're getting more burnt out as you're teaching more, and not even just like because you've been teaching for so long, but because like the like generations have changed, like students like behavior and like you said mental health, and there's more learning disabilities, like there's almost more work for you to do because of all these things, and you going from having fourth graders at one point to now having 5 year olds is also a big change. Like do you feel like you get burnt out as a teacher?
I would say it's from year to year. Um, I myself don't feel burned out. I enjoy it. Like I said, it's probably my this teaching the grade that I am is my favorite. Um, Even though there are challenges, and yes, the workload is definitely now with, like alone this year with so many students on an IEP for speech, it's meetings on top of paperwork to fill out, on top of more meetings. So, but I myself don't feel burned out, but I can definitely see where there are so many challenges because there are struggles that we didn't have before. And
Understood.
hands of what is expected of students definitely have changed over the years. So I think that's also part of struggles because they're asking kids to do so much more, which is good in some ways. But in other ways, it's just, I believe, creating a lot of behavior problems because it's just too much. They really can't do what is best.
Yeah, exactly, especially because like
Not every kid fits in the box. So
yeah, exactly, especially because we just have been talking about how there's been more learning disabilities and mental health like growing, so they might be going off of research from 30 years ago when there was not as much mental health, or even 15 years ago when mental health wasn't as big as it is now. um, but that was all amazing information. But I also wanted to touch on, do you feel like at your school or maybe like in your district that you have like the mental health resources, not just like the speech resources or and with your grade, it's kind of hard because your kids are so young, so they don't even know what having mental health issues are or things like that. But like having like bad home lives or things like, or losing parents or things like that. Do you feel like you can see that in your 5 year olds that like,
well, I definitely, not so much this year, but in years past, last year especially, I had many students with big behaviors, big feelings. Um, we have a wonderful wellness center at our school where there's the counselor and the psychologist who do groups, who do friendship groups or divorced parents group or lost parents or, you know, ones with behavior. So they are my school that I am at definitely sees the issues and the problems and are trying to find ways to help.
yeah,
Our counselor, we're lucky enough to have 5 days a week. She is on our campus the whole time. So um, I definitely feel my school has some outlets being a K-5. And I can't speak of other schools, but they're trying to help these students that need extra support.
awesome. Well, I really appreciate you taking your time to meet with me and talk about that and sharing all your insight. Um, I'm doing this podcast to like try to find advocacy for students and teachers with mental health and learning disabilities, and what in your school or just like using your school as an example, what you feel like works and what you feel like doesn't work. So thanks again. Thank you so much for watching the first episode of Let's Talk Podcast by Reese Roper. I look forward to talking to you guys again.